Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. In today's video, we are going to be discussing about human digestive system and the process of digestion. What is the purpose of having a digestive system? The main purpose of having a digestive system is that most of the food which we consume are all macromolecules. And the cells which are there in our body do not have the ability to absorb the macromolecules directly. So, what has to be done inside our body is that these macromolecules should get converted into micromolecules so that the cells will be easily able to absorb it. So, this is the main reason why we have a complex digestive system. Now, let's look into the components of the digestive system. Human digestive system consists of alimentary canal and the glands associated with it. Alimentary canal is a straight long tube which extends from the mouth to the anus. Alimentary canal consists of mouth, buccal cavity, pharynx, esophagus, stomach, intestine, which includes the large intestine as well as the small intestine, rectum, and then the anus. Now, when we talk about the glands associated with the digestive system, we have the salivary gland, liver, pancreas, and gastric glands. The role of these glands is to aid in digestion. So, these glands play a very important role in breaking down the macromolecules into micromolecules. In this image, you will be able to see the structure of the human digestive system. So, you can see the alimentary canal which is extending directly from the mouth to the anus, and then you will be also able to see the salivary gland, liver, and the pancreas. Now, let's look into the process of digestion. Now, digestion is the process by which complex food substances such as carbohydrates, proteins, and fats are broken down into simpler substances like glucose, amino acids, and fatty acids. Actually, this definition looks quite long, but then it is very easy for you to understand. Now, listen carefully. I told digestion simply means breakdown of macromolecules into micromolecules. Now, here, if you see, carbohydrates, proteins, and fats are all macromolecules. Okay, so these macromolecules cannot be absorbed into our cells. So, for which they have to get converted into their simpler forms. Okay, so they are ultimately getting converted into glucose, amino acids, and fatty acids. So, at the end of digestion, carbohydrates get converted into glucose, which is their simplest form, and then proteins get converted into amino acids, and fats get converted into fatty acids and glycerol. Now, when we talk about the process of digestion, there are 5 important steps which are involved in it: ingestion, digestion, absorption, assimilation, and egestion. Ingestion is the process in which we ingest the food, the process by which we take in the food, that is called as ingestion. Digestion, by now you must be very familiar with this term. Digestion is nothing but breakdown of macromolecules into micromolecules. And then we have absorption. Absorption is where the micromolecule is going to get into the bloodstream. Assimilation is the process where the absorbed micromolecule enters into the cell and it becomes a part of the cell. And then egestion. Egestion is the process where the undigested waste material gets eliminated out through the anus from our body. Alright. Now, let's look into the process of digestion. Now, first, what happens is once we ingest the food enters into the buccal cavity or into the oral cavity. In the buccal cavity, 2 ways of digestion occurs. One is mechanical digestion and the other is chemical digestion. Mechanical digestion is going to happen with the help of chewing, or also called as mastication. And chemical digestion is going to happen with the enzymes present in the saliva. Now, what are enzymes? Enzymes are chemical substances which are produced in our body to break down complex substance into simpler ones. Or in other terms, enzymes simply mean biocatalyst. Alright, now let's look into the chemical digestion and mechanical digestion in detail. When we talk about mechanical digestion, in the previous slide, I told you that mechanical digestion is going to happen with the help of chewing. So, what do we have for chewing in our mouth? We have teeth to chew the food. Okay, so when we talk about human beings have four different kinds of teeth. And this type of dentition, where we have four different types of teeth, is known as heterodont. Hetero means different and don means teeth. Okay, now let's see what are the four different types of teeth which we have. So we have incisors, canine, premolar and the molar. Incisors is also known as biting or cutting teeth. Canine is also known as staring teeth. Premolar is also known as the grinding teeth, and molar is also known as the crushing teeth or the grinding teeth. Alright. So now here you will be able to see the dental formula. Okay, so dental formula explains us the way in which the different types of teeth are arranged in our sockets. Okay, and one more very important point is that in human beings there are two different sets of teeth. Okay, in first few years of our lifetime we will be having milk teeth, which is also known as the deciduous teeth. This milk teeth will slowly fall off and that will be replaced by the permanent teeth. So we are having two different sets of teeth in our lifetime, and that type of dentition is known as diffeodont. Di means two. So we are not supposed to get confused with heterodont and diffeodont. Heterodont is having different kinds of teeth, and diffeodont is where human being has two different sets of teeth. Alright, now let's look into this diagram. So here you will be able to see the different kinds of teeth. You will be able to see incisors, canine, premolar and the molar. Okay, so their shapes are also very much different. Okay, now going on to chemical digestion. I've already highlighted that chemical digestion in the buccal cavity is going to happen with the help of saliva. Okay, and the enzymes which are present in the saliva. Now, how is this saliva produced? Saliva is produced by the salivary glands which are present in our mouth. So there are three pairs of salivary glands which are present in our mouth. They are parotid, sublingual and submandibular gland. Okay, now listen here carefully. Every scientific terminology has got a hidden meaning in it. If we understand the hidden meaning, science or biology becomes really, really easy. Okay, so here if you see parotid gland, in this word par means near and otid means ear. Why is this gland named as parotid? Now let's check it out. In this image if you see, parotid gland is located near to your ear. This is the reason why this gland is named as parotid gland. Alright, and the next salivary gland is called sublingual gland. Sub means under and lingual means tongue. So obviously this gland is going to be located below your tongue, and that is why it is named so. Yeah, in this image you will be able to see that clearly. Sublingual gland is located just below your tongue. The last gland which we have is submandibular gland, and this gland is just located below your jaw. Okay, so sub means under and mandibular means jaw. So this gland is located just below your jaw. Actually, submandibular gland is also known as submaxillary gland. Okay, alright. Now let's look into the enzymes which are present in saliva. So saliva consists of three different enzymes: salivary amylase or ptyalin, lysozyme and mucin. Salivary amylase is also known as ptyalin, and then it plays a very important role in converting polysaccharides into disaccharides. Children, please understand this. Monosaccharides means it has only one molecule of glucose. Disaccharides means it is going to have two molecules of glucose. And polysaccharide means it is going to have more than two molecules of glucose. So here I just told that salivary amylase is going to convert polysaccharide into disaccharide, which means salivary amylase is going to convert many molecules of glucose into 2 molecules of glucose. Alright, and then the next enzyme which we have is lysozyme. Very important role of lysozyme is that it kills the harmful pathogens which are present in our food. Okay, so what are pathogens? The disease causing organisms are basically called as pathogens. So lysozyme kills the harmful pathogen which are present in our food. Then we have the last enzyme in our saliva, which is mucin. So, when we talk about saliva, one thing which comes to your mind is saliva is a liquid which is always there inside our mouth, and it is got quite a gel like consistency. So, mucin is the enzyme which is going to give that gel like consistency to the saliva. Okay, and the role of mucin is to soften the food. Alright, now next what happens is we have the tongue. So the tongue is also the next very important part in our buccal cavity. Now the tongue helps us to perceive taste. How is this happening? Tongue has got a lot of taste buds. These taste buds are also called as papillae. Okay, so these taste buds help us to perceive taste. Okay, so we will be able to taste different food items, you know that very well. Okay, we know to differentiate sweet, salt, sour and bitterness. All this is because of the papillae or the taste buds which are present in our tongue. Apart from this, tongue also helps us to talk very well. Okay, all right. Now after this, what happens is once the digestion is completed in the buccal cavity, the food in the form of bolus means like a ball. Okay, so the food in the form of bolus will enter into the esophagus. Esophagus is also known as the food pipe. Okay, so what is happening after this is the food from the buccal cavity enters into the esophagus in the form of bolus through the pharynx. Alright, I will repeat this again. Now, in the mouth, chemical digestion is done and then mechanical digestion is also done. After that, what happens is the food is going to move into the esophagus through pharynx. Alright, so what is this pharynx? Now, pharynx is a common opening for both food as well as for air. Okay, so pharynx serves as a common passage for both food as well as air. It is going to lead into trachea as well as into the esophagus. Now, trachea is also called as the windpipe and esophagus is also called as the food pipe. Now, one thing which we need to understand very carefully is that we want the food to go into the esophagus and not into the trachea. But then I told that pharynx is going to be the common passage for both trachea as well as the esophagus. So how is the entry of food into the trachea prevented? How is the food entering only into the esophagus and not entering into the trachea? So this is made possible by a flap-like structure which is present just below the pharynx. Okay, so and that flap-like structure is called as the epiglottis. So the role of epiglottis is to prevent the entry of food into the trachea. Okay, so you must have heard your parents and your grandparents advising you not to talk while eating. Okay, the major reason is that when you do both together, there are a lot of possibilities for the epiglottis to open and the food, instead of sliding into the esophagus, it may slide into your trachea. So if the food slides into the trachea, it may ultimately lead to choking, okay, which would be quite dangerous as well. Okay, so what happens is there is this structure epiglottis which prevents the entry of food. That is why we are advising you and your parents also advise you not to talk while you are consuming food. All right, okay, now then what happens is the food from the buccal cavity through the pharynx will enter into the esophagus. Now, once the food reaches the esophagus contracts and relaxes in a rhythmic manner. Alright, and this process by which the esophagus contracts and relaxes rhythmically is known as peristalsis. Alright, and then what happens is slowly the food will move into the stomach. Stomach is a J-shaped bag-like structure. Okay, and then one very important function of stomach is that stomach holds the food temporarily. Okay, so stomach is going to hold the food temporarily for a short period of time, and then stomach will send the food little by little into the duodenum or into the small intestine so that complete digestion of food happens. Alright, now let's look into the structure of the stomach. Now, structure of stomach, when we talk about the structure of stomach, it is divided into cardiac stomach, fundus, body, and the pyloric stomach. Okay, now what is this cardiac stomach? Now, the cardiac stomach is the point where the esophagus opens into the stomach. Okay, in this image there is a green portion which is highlighted. I think you are able to see that. So, that point where the esophagus meets the stomach is known as the cardiac stomach. The next region is fundus. Fundus is the upper curved portion of the stomach. Then we have the body. So the body of the stomach is the main region, okay, and it is very important, and it's the central region of the stomach. Next we have the pyloric stomach. Pyloric stomach is also known as pylorus. The word pylorus in Greek means gatekeeper. Okay, so now what pyloric stomach does is, pyloric stomach will push the food little by little into the duodenum. So what is duodenum? Duodenum is nothing but a part of the small intestine. Alright, so what pylorus does is, pylorus will send the food little by little from the stomach into the small intestine. Alright, now for a short period of time, food is going to be there in the stomach. So during that time, what is going to happen to the stomach? Let's see. Okay, so inside the stomach there are many gastric pits. Okay, and these gastric pits consist of many different cells. So they have chief cells, oxyntic cells or parietal cells, and they also have the goblet cells. Okay, and each of this cell are going to produce different substances. Let's see what are they. Now the chief cells produce pepsinogen. Pepsinogen is nothing but the inactive form of pepsin. Alright, now oxyntic or parietal cells produce hydrochloric acid. Okay, now why is hydrochloric acid secreted in our stomach? Hydrochloric acid creates an acidic medium for the food which is there in our stomach, which will help to kill all the harmful pathogens which are there in our food. Okay, and one more very important function that HCl does is, HCl activates the inactive pepsinogen and convert it into active pepsin. Alright, okay, so what is the role of pepsin? What is pepsin? Pepsin is nothing but an enzyme. Alright, so the role of pepsin is to break down the proteins into peptones. Okay, so one very important thing that we have to keep in mind here is, protein digestion begins in the stomach itself. And one more important point is that digestion of carbohydrates begins in our mouth itself. Alright, so it's a very important question from your exam point of view. So where does protein digestion begin and where does carbohydrate digestion begin? You must be able to write the answer. So protein digestion begins in the stomach and the digestion of carbohydrates begin from the mouth itself. Alright, and then one more important cell which is there is the goblet cells. Now goblet cells produce mucus. Okay, so why do we have mucus in our stomach wall? So mucus lining is there entirely in our stomach wall. The reason why we have the mucus lining in our stomach wall is because hydrochloric acid is getting secreted in our stomach. Alright, so hydrochloric acid must act on the food. But sometimes what we do is we may skip a meal. Okay, we may not have our food on proper time. So in that case, what happens is the hydrochloric acid may start acting on the stomach wall. So to protect our stomach from the attack of hydrochloric acid, we have the mucus lining. Alright, at times what happens is you may feel a burning sensation if you don't consume your meal on time. You may feel a burning sensation inside your stomach. That is basically because of the HCl acting on your stomach. Alright, so if we continuously skip our meal, okay, then what happens, continuously our stomach lining or the stomach wall is getting exposed to hydrochloric acid, which could be highly dangerous and it could even lead to ulcers. Okay, so this is one thing which we should keep in mind. Mucus is there in our entire stomach lining, and that is going to be secreted by the goblet cells, and very important function of mucus is that they protect our stomach wall from the hydrochloric acid. Is that clear? So we will stop with this, and then in our next video we will continue about digestion in the small intestine. Thank you.